I know you hate school, and so do I, but I found a method to get a 95 average in school, and the trick is to minimize your time studying. I didn't grind for this 95 average, and I think you don't need to, no, and you don't need to either, okay? So, first thing I want to talk about is the beliefs, and I'm not genetically smarter than anyone else, okay? I'm not book smart. There's no such things as these things. Is there someone stupider than you who gets better grades than you? Yes, of course. Is there someone who spends less time than you and gets better grades than you? Yes, I probably spend less time than most nerds and I get better grades than them, okay? So these factors were never a thing to worry about in the first place. You can do it. It's just you guys, if I told you exactly what I did and you followed exactly what I told you, you would get the exact same results that I get. So it's very much possible for you to get these things. You got to stop limiting yourself to your beliefs that, oh, I can't get this mark. You can, okay? All you got to do is do exactly what I say. And you would get the results that I get, okay? So how do you go about studying less time, okay? The main idea I want you to conceptualize is knowledge gaps. So imagine you are practicing a piano piece where the first third of the piano piece you were good at. The middle part you didn't know much about. And then the final part you knew everything about. So the first and the third parts you knew everything about, okay? Now I give you 1 hour to practice this piece. What would be the best use of your time? Well, obviously, it would be to practice the middle part, right? Because you didn't know everything about it. There would be no point of practicing the parts that you already know, right? You would be spending time learning things that you already knew, which isn't even learning. So you'd just be wasting your time compared to spending it on the middle, right? And this is the idea of knowledge gaps, okay? The idea is that most of our time spent on studying is actually wasted by learning things we already know. Instead, we should be focusing on the things that we don't know, which in this example for the piano is that centerpiece, okay? So how do we apply this to studying? The best method that I use to find those knowledge gaps is by doing practice questions. Now, this practice questions is almost like playing a piano piece from start to finish. You will scan through all the piece and know exactly which parts you don't know. For the unit, you would scan through all the essential information and find out exactly what you don't know. Now, imagine you were a textbook writer and you wanted a way to communicate to the reader which parts of your textbook was the most essential pieces of information. How would you do that? Well, you would just test them on it through the practice questions, right? So by doing the practice questions, we're not only finding out exactly what we don't know, we're also testing ourselves on the most essential pieces of information in the textbook. Now, there's an even better benefit to doing practice questions, and it's the fact that teachers also test us on the essential information in a unit, and we can find out exactly what that information is by doing the practice questions, because the textbook already outlined what the essential information is in the practice questions. So essentially, by doing your practice questions, you're actually skipping through all that time you spend rereading notes, reading through the textbook. Don't even read through the unit. Just skip to the questions. You already know the method to spend the least amount of time learning the things you already know. It's by scanning through the entire unit once and then just studying the things that you don't know. So after you do those practice questions, you instantly jump to the things that you don't know and start practicing those. So I'm not trying to convince you to do your fucking homework, because even I don't do homework. I don't do homework for a 95 average. You don't need to do homework, really. All studying really is trying to stuff in as much information into your brain as fast as possible in order to vomit it back onto a test paper, okay? So by doing practice questions, you can actually skip the daily homework that you need to do by just doing the practice questions for the entire unit at the last day. Obviously, I want you to listening during the lessons would save you so much time when you do the final set of practice questions, because you're conceptualizing the ideas already, and the more you conceptualize in the moment, the less you'll need to relearn when you do that final scan at the end of the practice questions.